So I woke up this morning and one of the media outlets I saw on Twitter put this picture up, and I'm not sure it's accurate. What do you think? Like, what are they doing? Because I found a picture just to make sure I wasn't going crazy. Like, how did his head suddenly become how did his part suddenly become that broad and shiny? And why would they do that? Anyway, so we're going to be jumping into a quick recap of some important details that Danny shared with Dr. Hines yesterday on their live, and then we're going to start covering what's going on with day 7 of the Jonathan Majors trial. I'm recording this throughout the day to keep the updates in place as they come in, and this morning I got an email from someone that it really touched me because when they heard that Danny wasn't going to be in the courtroom today, they went down there. So when I speak with them, I'll find out exactly how to make sure we can relay information and get it out there. So I'm interjecting in my own video. You're going to see me compare people's coverage of day 6 versus what we're getting from Danny, who was also in the courtroom. And I'm going to try to highlight key details and events that are really important that the media either didn't discuss or tried to couch and protect or qualify a certain way. And in doing this, you're going to feel like you're only getting a bit and piece of one little thing. And you're going to wonder maybe later why I'm repeating it. But the reason is because when one event was talked about on day 6, and then it's talked about again on day 7, inconsistencies come out. And because we can't get the full picture, this trial is not televised, pulling together the way that Danny was able to gather information about how question and answers about an incident went yesterday versus how the questions and answers about the same incident went on day 7, thanks to Jimmy's reporting in the courtroom, that's when the inconsistencies become really apparent. And you'll also see other things that maybe they're not brought up again. We're not going to hear them brought up again, but they go to a pattern. There's a reason. There's a reason this was mentioned because it'll go to establish maybe that. So for the next 10 to 12 minutes, please bear with the bits and pieces and the jumbled events. What matters about each event is the little details, the way they're described, the way Jabbari reacts to the questions that are asked while that event is being questioned through, and then how it compares or leads into what happens on day 7. Because Jimmy's comfortable having his name be known, it is Jimmy. Jimmy's down in the courtroom. So Jimmy the New Yorker, everyone stop and drop a comment for Jimmy because he's the one that filled in when we all thought no one was going to be there to do fair reporting today. So everyone shout out Jimmy in the comments. He is on YouTube, not on X, so a YouTube comment is the place to do it. And then let's get to it. And then we'll look at some of the things that Danny shared. All right, so for people that don't click the article, they'll get this caption here where yesterday the defense threw an assortment of one-off punches, reducing her to tears when they brought up her high school boyfriend who died by suicide. And that's also the headline here. So, while being cross-examined, Jabbari was asked a non sequitur question. And I'm already going to stop there because non sequitur memes does not follow. And are we not following a day of testimony where she said that Majors used threats of suicide as a controlling mechanism over her? Anyway, over the judge's sustained objection by defense lawyer Priya Chaudhry about her high school boyfriend who had allegedly, quote, committed suicide, Jabbari became visibly overwhelmed with emotion, with tears streaming down her face, and excused herself out of the courtroom. Well, did she excuse herself out of the courtroom, or did she run out of the courtroom?
When she was trying to back Grace into the corner of admitting that she was the one that was suicidal, kind of leading up to the point where the cops found her in the closet. She, of course, she's talking around in circles. No, I'm not, I'm not suicidal. I wasn't suicidal. Priya just out of left field was like, well, what about your boyfriend that killed himself? And I said, what? And as soon as she said that, Grace broke down crying, had to leave the stand, ran down the hallway that the jury and the witnesses, ran down the hallway where the jury and the witnesses go through. You hear a door slam because before the court officer could close the door that leads to the courtroom, she was already down the hallway and had slammed the door.
We'll go back to the wording here, that she excused herself out of the courtroom. When Jabbari, 30, returned to the courtroom minutes later, Judge Michael Gaffey leaned toward her and said, Miss Jabbari, we're going to move on to a different subject now. Then we talk about the charges and the text in the phone, arriving with Megan Good, what everyone was wearing, and then we get a characterization about how Jabbari has testified about rage and aggression, opening statements, more opening statements. The defense had hoped to use a counter-complaint they filed against Jabbari in trial, but that case has been subsequently sealed. So months after the alleged incident, Chaudhry went to speak to a police precinct in Manhattan, alleging that Jabbari had attacked her client that night in March. not the other way around, and filled out the actor's own domestic incident report in a breach of police protocol that led to a verbal finger-wagging at the defense lawyer from presiding Judge Gaffey in pretrial proceedings. So, am I reading the wrong article? Why are we talking about this on December 6th? And also, last week, the judge ruled that the arrests could come in, so if they're referencing pretrial motions, this isn't an update from something, at least where they're getting an update from, isn't from pretrial. So why is this relevant right now, and why are they leaving out, sorry, let me scroll back up, and why are they leaving out, she's allowed to bring up the arrest, but that the prosecution can accordingly, poke holes in the motivation behind the arrest. We're going back with opening statements again. Much of Chaudhry's cross-examination of Jabbari has centered on Jabbari's drinking habit, sometimes seemingly conflating what Jabbari drank with what Majors drank. Conflating? Does she mean that... Is there an implication here that Majors was drinking and Priya is supposed to be confused about it? In cross-examination that stretched about 2 hours and 45 minutes Wednesday and continues Thursday, the judge sustained some 25 objections to Chaudhry's line of questioning, and at one point reminded the lawyer of basic legal principles. Careful about opening doors to other people, the judge said of Chaudhry's questions to Jabbari about people tangentially involved in the case. Then referencing prosecutors, they redirect. Following the question about the high school boyfriend who Chaudhry claimed had died by suicide, the relevance of which was never made clear because the judge ensured the subject was subsequently dropped, Jabbari, who had cried often throughout her 2 days of testimony, returned to the courtroom and didn't exhibit emotions for the rest of the day. Hold on, make sure you pin this right here, that she didn't exhibit emotions for the rest of the day yesterday. Day 7 is a totally different story. Chaudhry later asked Jabbari if she had seen photos of herself at the nightclub the night after the alleged attack. Just the ones you posted, Jabbari said quietly. That sounds like protective wording again. So hear me out. If I read this, just the ones you posted, Jabbari said quietly, I would have thought she said, just the ones you posted. But if we hear someone speaking it out loud, we have...
Because she did get slick with the mouth when Priya was asking her about, was she aware that the prosecution did not show us the video of her dancing in the club? She goes, the one that you released?
Wait, Grace
She
said
said
that?
to Priya, you mean the one that you released? And Priya said objection.
Getting slick with the mouth, and you mean the one that you release, is quite different than, in my opinion, I would not say, said quietly. Wait, is this the whole article? This is the whole article. So where is... Okay, just from this timeline of this video, which you need to go watch, it's great. We had a great time in here. We've got discussions of why the strangulation charge was dropped, according to Jabbari. We've got discussions again of the SUV inconsistencies based on, how the SUV is built, the seats aren't together, where they would have been in the car, how she had to climb across the car to get out the door to come chase him, so it's not like, he was dragging her out of the car. There's a reason all of this stuff is not non sequitur. It all follows if you piece it together. But we don't see any mentions of that. And then even when we do get a mention of Jabbari's drinking habits, it's qualified as something that Priya Chaudhry must be conflating with Jonathan Majors' drinks. And again, this was the end of the article here. We got a whole bunch of stuff about opening statements and things. There was plenty of room in this article to talk about what happened yesterday. Plenty of room. All that space in that article, and they didn't talk about the police timeline or the fingernail photos.
The other thing that Priya was hinting around at before we recessed was that Grace faked being passed out in that closet.
Oh.
Yes, because she kept harping in on these WhatsApp messages. So apparently Grace has this good friend out in the UK that when she got home and took those pictures of her ear and her finger and everything, she sent it to the girl. And she was texting her from midnight that night until about 11 o'clock the next morning, and even in the evening while she was at the hospital. And Priya said that there were text messages where she was telling the girl things that she should not have known if she was passed out in the closet. Priya was like, because, they discovered her around 11 o'clock in the morning. But the timeline from the time that she texted the friend and they found her, quote, unconscious on the floor in the closet was only 15 minutes. What happened in 15 minutes that you text the girl?
Now, this is a bit of a catch-22 for Jabbari because she tried to volunteer that she went onto the warm bathroom floor to pass out because she was tired and wanted to be cozy on the warm bathroom floor, because she was exhausted, not because she was under the influence or drunk or had just puked in the bed. So she just wanted to lay there to get comfortable and was just texting her friend, but was in a complete daze 15 minutes later when the responders come in and talk to her and ask her what happened. Like, this is a great point. What happened?
Something, and then all of a sudden you're unconscious on the floor in the closet, and they think that you're not alive. So the police found her 13 minutes after the last text to her friend. The last text that she sent to her friend was, "I'm up and I'm awake." And then 13 minutes later, the police found her, quote, unconscious. Priya's trying to establish the fact that she was texting her friend from the closet Right. So she said, well, that's kind of unbelievable, but if that's what the video shows, then I guess that I have my phone in the closet.
And then one more thing that we need some key details from Danny from that the news definitely didn't cover, although Victoria did mention it. She highly qualified it, couched it in a narrative. There was a mention of a Sag Harbor incident. And here's what happened, and here's why Priya asked about it.
She basically kept asking a lot of questions to try to establish the alcoholism because she said that they got into an argument because she was trying to get Jonathan's schedule. And he said, you don't need to worry about my schedule. Don't plan your life around my schedule. And she got upset, ran off, and took a bottle of wine to the beach. And then came back, tried to drive herself home, but she was too drunk to accomplish the task. Man, listen, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Now, do you see that? There was a discussion about the relationship where Jonathan Major said, don't plan your life around my schedule. I mean, he's filming, so that requires travel. It's a bulk of time. We heard that the relationship was great, according to her, when they first met, because they were spending every day together and it was great. Now we hear that with Sag Harbor, she gets upset about a discussion because there's going to be some type of thing that she can't be around because he has obligations. But she was sitting there, thanks, Calvin. She was sitting there trying to plan her schedule to be around him. And he says, don't do that. Probably not a good idea. And that's an ebb and flow in relationships that people have to deal with. It's nice to try to spend a lot of time with people, but you can't just spend your whole life up under somebody. Like, people got things to do, and you've got to have some independence and do the things that you need to do also. So this discussion prompted her to grab this bottle of wine, go drink on the beach, and then try to get behind the wheel of a car and start driving. And realized, we don't know the details here, but apparently realized that it was no bueno. But we go back to that People article, and we've got these non sequitur questions and conflating what Jabbari drank with what Majors drank. And then the last thing I want to cover, there was a ton in this interview, so go and watch it because we're not going to recap it all here. But just as a balancing act of what the news is reporting and what they would have room to report if they wanted to report, because this article has a whole bunch of stuff that did not happen yesterday and does not need to be said to fill up this article. And then it just cuts off abruptly and doesn't talk about any of this stuff. Actually, two more things. I can summarize one, though. Even though Grace Jabbari testified that there was no damage to her clothes because of the fight or anything that happened that night, she filed a $700 claim with the Victims' Compensation Unit. That's a publicly funded, it's a state-funded program that reimburses victims for, damages that may have been done to them while they are the victim of a crime. So, for example, if you get mugged, if you get beat up and your coat is ripped and your shoes are scuffed up or they steal your shoes, you can file a claim to be reimbursed for that. Well, Grace Jabbari filed a claim, and she claimed $700 worth of clothes and $250, maybe it was $200, worth of skincare products, hygiene products. But why? And the thing that's weird about that is you said you didn't have damaged clothes, so what are you claiming $700 in loss of clothing for? And then how did Grace Jabbari handle questioning about what clothing, the shirt that Jonathan Majors was wearing when everything happened on March 25th? This is how she answered on day 6, still.
So she did, when they did revisit what happened in the car the second time that they got back in, she claimed that he pushed her shoulder, and that's when she grabbed the shirt to stop him from leaving the car. The shirt that she said she didn't recognize or know that he had on, even though he had it on, she ripped it, and it was in all the surveillance video, leading up to the point after she chased him down the street and everything else, she couldn't remember what he had on today, between yesterday and today. And then let's talk about her knowledge and awareness of her ear injury. So this first clip is from Direct. So when the prosecution was questioning Jabbari, Jabbari describes the alleged laceration on her head. As Jabbari struggled to sleep due to pain, she testified, I noticed that the hair on my head was stuck behind my ear. Was what is going on? I had no idea. I started realizing I could peel my hair off. My head feeling like it was dried blood, I guess. I was just what is this? And then let's look at how on day 6, which we only know because of Danny, what and when did Grace remember or realize anything about her ear? A big one, an important one, is Priya's trying to establish that she had put her ear up on the screen for a good 10-15 minutes, 4 or 5 different shots of the back of her ear. 2 of the shots showed blood behind the ear. 2 of them showed no blood behind the ear. She kept pressing the issue of, and we all saw it for ourselves. In every surveillance video, you see Grace sweeping her hair behind that same ear that had no injury on it at the time. They zoomed in on her fingernails, and you can see where they're not long, but they're long enough that you can scratch yourself. So I think she didn't get to that point yet, but I'm feeling like tomorrow she'll get to the point.
Tomorrow she will. I know
Right.
Grace is not gonna.
Where she kept asking her, she was like, why is there blood under your fingernails? And this picture, there's no blood under your fingernails. Oh, she just kept going and going and going. And of course, Grace tried to wiggle her way out of how the blood miraculously got from under her fingernails.
No way.
And then Priya zooms in on some earrings that she had on. But she said it without saying it. So To me, I think she kept harping on her brushing her hair behind her ears all night because she made sure she gave it a timestamp. She said, we didn't see any blood between 12:41 a.m. and 8 a.m. But then all of a sudden, by the time you took the pictures and sent them to your friend, you had blood behind your ear. So she's, like I said, trying to, I guess, say that Grace is the one that did it by constantly sweeping her. And it's completely believable because if you sit now while we're talking and sweep your hand behind your ear, you're literally scratching the back of your ear if you have long
Well, you guys got to test that out because I can't.
nails.
And also, this is actually very interesting. Because she did deny giving Jonathan scratches.
So we have two different parts of testimony where Grace Jabbari is aware of the laceration, the blood behind her ear from the alleged injuries sustained from the events at the center of this case. We have two different parts of testimony from direct and her cross-examination segment on day 6. And we also have her definitively sure that she did not scratch Jonathan Majors. So that can explain any possible blood left under a fingernail. Grace Jabbari testified that she hit but did not scratch Jonathan Majors. These photos are from like 2 in the morning. See the timestamp here says 2:02 a.m. That's a scratch. I think my very first video where I talked about this picture, that was my first reaction to this. That's a fingernail scratch. Like, there's no mistaking that. It's not even an animal. You know, if your dog jumps up, their claws are different than a human nail. Their scratches look different. This is like a broad fingernail scratch. But yeah, go watch that video. So all of that stuff could have been in this article that had nothing in it except protecting language for Grace Jabbari. And maybe I'm not being fair. Maybe I'm not being reasonable. If you think they did a good job with this, you can say so in the comments. Time to get into day 7, cross-examination of Grace Jabbari. And to start, we're going to speed through the live reporting from Pilar Melendez. And then we're going to walk through everything that Jimmy was able to share from the courtroom to the best of his recall and my recall, compiling it all together for you guys. So if you haven't already shouted Jimmy out, drop a comment for Jimmy. Shout out Jimmy in the comments because it's really awesome that he went down there to make sure somebody was down there today. So now, Jonathan Majors' accuser, Grace Jabbari, is on the witness stand for the 3rd day. During cross-examination, Majors' lawyers grilling Grace on details of March 25th, including whether she used a lime for her tequila shots at a bar after the attack. Chaudhry began playing a video in court of Jabbari running after Majors after he had exited the car. Jabbari began to cry on the stand while she watched the video and asked for a break. Now hold on, let me sneak in here. Why are you running away crying about this video when you've seen it already? And we have no report of you crying. At least we have no report. You were not crying when that happened the other day. Think about that. Oh, she asked for a break. She needs a break for this. Jurors now watching video of Jabbari asking 3 strangers to help her call a car home. Chaudhry asked Jabbari if she used both hands to put her hair up, which Jabbari confirms. In the video, Jabbari asks the strangers for a ride and tells them what happened. You just told them that I saw a text. He got a text from a woman saying, I wish I could be kissing you. And I was like, what the fuck? Chaudhry asks. Jabbari asked to play again. Now remember, she's been asking, we just heard from Danny, that she kept asking all day yesterday when it was Priya questioning her, oh, can you repeat the question? Can you repeat the question? I don't understand. And Chaudhry had to say, oh, court reporter, transcriber, can you please read that question back? And Jabbari has seen these videos. That's the kicker. Because yesterday Priya asked her, have you seen any videos in this case? And she goes, you mean the ones you released? Quietly. But now she has to ask, oh, can you play it again? Listen, if I was in some video that was all over the internet, my ears would be, I tried to listen to this just as a random person trying to figure out what was going on in this case. But if it was me in the video, I'd be all like, what am I saying exactly? I would have played that thing until I had all the details down. And I don't think that part was even that hard to hear. Chaudhry is still playing the video, stopping and starting the video to ask questions about what hands Jabbari was using during different actions. She just asked Jabbari to confirm she was right-handed, which Jabbari confirmed. We are now moving on to videos of Jabbari at the bar. Jabbari confirms that she is holding her coat on her right hand and her bag on her left. That is you using your fingers to pull out a credit card, is that correct? Chaudhry asked Jabbari. Jabbari says she used her fingers and hands. Chaudhry asked Jabbari if she is dancing in the video, where she is seen at the bar swaying. Yeah, not very well, Jabbari responds with a little laugh. Chaudhry asked Jabbari if she had trouble figuring out where to sign after the video shows her with the bar receipt for a bit. Jabbari said she doesn't know how to answer that question. For what it's worth, we are watching the video that Majors' defense previously released of Jabbari at the bar, which means she's had time to look at that and review it as much as she wanted to. Chaudhry is still asking Jabbari about little details in the video, including when she is seen smoking at the bar. We are nearing the end of the video where Jabbari is seen attempting to call herself a car home. Jabbari previously said that she ended up having to take a yellow cab home because she had trouble calling a car with Wi-Fi. For what it's worth, the questions are quick, and Jabbari mostly just affirms what's being shown in the video. That's you're hugging Chloe goodbye, yes? Chaudhry asks. Yes, Jabbari says. And we'll get more on these quotes from Jimmy. Chaudhry asked Jabbari if Chloe ever sent her the selfie they took together that night. Jabbari said that she isn't sure if Chloe sent her that exact photo. Lunch break time, back in court at 2:15. Now, I'm curious because this wording, and the wording could just be, quick note-taking, and it could just be a misstatement from Priya in the questioning, but it says the selfie they took together that night. So I'm curious if that's like literally the picture that Jabbari and Chloe took together. Does that mean she sent you a bunch of photos but didn't send the selfie of the two of you? Why would she send a bunch of other pictures but not the one of the both of you? That just seems like it seems like a dismissive answer. Now, we might take a quick look at this Daily Beast article later, but the article's actually been updated to include, the afternoon stuff as well, so we'll just wait till we get through the rest of this thread. And we're back. Majors just sat back down at the defense table to begin our afternoon session. His brown mug and Bible are with him. Jabbari is still in the stand under cross-examination. I anticipate she'll be there for a while. There's a joke about this. Chaudhry is now questioning Jabbari about the sleeping pills she took after she returned home from the bar the night of the alleged attack. Jabbari says she got the pills from CVS, but does not remember the exact brand or type. Now, I guess I'll weave this in here, but Jimmy tells us that it's a CVS brand bottle. And this was an interesting line of questioning, so we'll come back to this too. Chaudhry showed Jabbari a picture of a pill bottle. The gallery has not seen the photo yet. Jabbari cannot confirm that the pill bottles are the same pills she took. She noted that she did not take that photo. Jabbari says she has no specific memory if she took pain medication that night. Chaudhry keeps asking Jabbari whether she told the doctors or the DA if she took pain meds that night. The DA keeps objecting to her questions, and the judge keeps sustaining the objection. Jabbari says that she was found in the, quote, area between the bathroom and the closet. I believe that is where they found me, she said. You might have seen me call this out earlier, but she was pretty adamant in her direct testimony that she wanted to correct what and how Priya had represented where she was passed out and how. So she, with conviction, she said, I wasn't in a closet. I was in the bathroom, and I know that because I went there because the floor is warm. And she just wanted to feel warm. But now she's saying the area between the bathroom and the closet, and I believe that is where they found me. And it's my guess that she knows she has to correct the way she worded it previously, because there's going to be the video of her on the floor passed out with the police standing there talking to her. And they're going to keep saying closet over and over and over while they're questioning her about it. So this is a little walk back. Jabbari is crying on the stand again after being asked to watch the body cam for... See, I should have just read ahead. Jabbari is crying on the stand again after being asked to watch body camera footage from the officers who found her in the apartment. I really don't want to watch it, Jabbari says. She just took up and asked to take a break. As she walked into the witness room, the gallery could still hear her audibly sobbing. Majors continued to look at the defense table. She returned several minutes later, apologizing for the outburst and pleading not to watch the police body cam footage that initially caused her to cry. Do I have to? Jabbari asked. She was made to watch the video again before the video was played for the courtroom. In the video, officers are speaking to Jabbari inside a closet. As the video was being played, Jabbari was audibly crying again on the stand, holding her arm to her head. I was trying to sleep and I got sick, she says in the video to the police officers. We're going to hear more about what she says in this part. And it's crazy because it really lines up with what Danny mentioned yesterday that I thought was just, a question from Priya to elicit a reaction from Jabbari, the idea that she faked being passed out in the closet. There's some interesting questioning that happens today on that. So Jimmy's going to give us those details. I'm going to relay them to you. And we're going to go, this is all the same article, so we're just going to look at the update when we're ready to go. Chaudhry is now questioning Jabbari about comments she made after the incident. Jabbari also said that she thought initial media attention on the case after March 25th was really overwhelming. Court is done for the day. Jabbari will continue her last day on the stand tomorrow. So we'll take a quick roll through this article to see, obviously taking quick notes and live reporting, and, there might be extra things added in on this article here. They are recapping that she broke down and ran out of the room, repeated, do I have to? And yes, she had to sit there and watch the video. And how she continued to cry as she watched the video again to answer questions about how she was initially cagey with the police about the alleged altercation. Over the sounds of the video, which shows officers speaking to Jabbari in a closet, was being played. Closet. Jabbari wept again, holding her arm to her head. Now, this is her weeping audibly when the court was now able to hear the audio. Now, some video was played today where it was only shown to Jabbari and she had headphones on, so the courtroom could only hear the questioning. And how attorneys will approach that is whatever's being said in the video that they want the court to be aware of, they'll phrase the question like, and do you hear the police officers asking you if you're passed out in the closet? That's not a literal question from today, but you could imagine how if that's in the audio and the court can't hear it, but you phrase a question that way, it's a great way to let the courtroom know what's being said that they can't hear. But in this case, now they're actually able to listen to this clip. They're able to hear it. And Jabbari starts crying very loudly and audibly and animatedly. We see the tequila and lime thing. I would like to have my memory refreshed, Jabbari, sporting a polka dot jacket and ponytail, said to that question about whether or not she used the lime to take a tequila shot. Now, why this is important, and I do think that Pilar should have, and there's no reason she should not have noted this. Jimmy said that every clip of this video at the bar, really anything throughout the night from the time she goes up on the part of the sidewalk, Priya walks through it clip by clip. Like, from basically all of the footage from after the time that she allegedly sustained the injury. Priya goes through it clip by clip and notes these things. And Jimmy said it was details of how she's using her hand in ways that, we might not have noticed or talked about in a stream before that he didn't notice personally. That's how detailed it got. That bit by bit, Priya's going through these moments, stopping, pausing. Did you see that there? What hand are you using there? What hand are you using to do that? So when we see this mentioned here, oh, it's such a detailed questioning that she's even asking about using a lime to take a tequila shot. We don't see any notations that this repeated questioning about exact movements is meant to ask, and with each question, Chaudhry is asking, are you using your right hand to do that? So that very important detail is left out here. Chaudhry also questioned the 30-year-old choreographer who dated Majors for 2 years about how many glasses of champagne she had, if anyone held her hand, and whether she danced near the DJ booth. Yeah, not very well, Jabbari responded with a laugh. Now, that is actually interesting because that could go to her level of, maybe alcohol in the system because she's a dancer, right? So what might cause a dancer to not be dancing very well? What would influence them? But then I noticed this, Pilar lumped all these questions together. So if you were reading this, maybe you'll catch that little bit if anyone held her hand, which that detail could be relevant for other reasons maybe. But there's no clarification here that these questions are all being asked with an additional follow-up. Well, which hand are you using while you do that? Are you using your right hand here to do that? There's no mention of it here. But Pilar moves on, and Priya Chaudhry spent a decent amount of time asking questions about specific details about what happened in the car, what happened in the street, what happened with the chase video. The chase scenes were played again. It might have been different exhibits, but it was several scenes. We're going to hear from Jimmy. But all we have here is, how Jabbari previously testified and how Chaudhry asked again today about whether she got out of the car before Majors, whether Majors ever chased her, and if she was happy with the strangers she met on Manhattan Street. After Chaudhry played a video of Jabbari running after Majors when he got out of the car, Jabbari began to weep on the stand and ask for a break. Majors did not move as Jabbari left with the tissue on her face. Now, it might not be clear to Pilar because I don't know if she was there yesterday, but it's important context. And if the jury was sitting there, they'll know. But Jabbari has seen this clip of her chasing. She's seen this before, and now it's causing her to weep today. At another point, the defense lawyer asked Jabbari if she had scratches on her face the night of the alleged attack. Jabbari responded that she did not think so, which prompted Chaudhry to inquire how she would not know about the scratches if she had washed her face, as she testified on Wednesday. You may have heard me call that out yesterday, and it left me curious because when you go to clean your face, you're usually using water or you have a cream that you got to make sure you're putting in the right place, not accidentally poking in your eye because you can't see what you're doing. And you want to look at yourself to make sure you got all your makeup off. Well, Jabbari had volunteered that when she arrived home, she remembers going to clean her face, clean her makeup off. She volunteered that detail. So today, Priya hammers in on it. And we do get some details here from Pilar that this led to a back and forth about cleansing regimens. Jabbari confirmed she washed her face with makeup remover, then clarified it was facial wash and water when Chaudhry probed further. You just said makeup remover, and now face wash, Chaudhry pressed, prompting Jabbari to explain that face wash removes makeup. We're going to hear some more back and forth questioning on this. Prosecutors say that Majors returned to the apartment in the morning, where he found Jabbari and called 911. Jabbari previously testified that she was totally overwhelmed when she woke up and found several officers inside her apartment. Well, they were standing right above her, so we should probably word that right. When she woke up and they were standing over her and she was still laying on the ground in the closet. And then that's all we have from Pilar. Now we're going to do a rundown of what People Magazine Emily Palmer is saying today. And this is the first one from today, right? Yeah, so that's December 6th. Here we go. Major's accuser watches videos of herself dancing in nightclub within hours of alleged attack. In video surveillance that Major's defense team presented to the jury Thursday afternoon, Jabbari is seen walking into Loosies nightclub within hours of the alleged attack by Majors in March. Jabbari was surrounded by a group of strangers she came upon during the former couple's altercation. In court, Jabbari dressed in a black turtleneck sweater with white polka dots and her blonde hair pulled into a ponytail. Watch grainy black and white video surveillance footage of her purchasing a bottle of champagne for the group with the credit card Majors had previously given his live-in girlfriend. In addition, footage from the nightclub was shown to the jury, some of it in color. Jabbari is seen dancing with the new friends, but not very well, the professional dancer testified with a laugh. I wasn't focusing on pain, I was just trying to have a nice time. Jabbari, who has testified that her dancing career gives her a high pain tolerance, said in cross-examination of being able to dance after the alleged attack. I was choosing not to focus on it. She also said the pain, noting repeatedly through her 3 days of testimony, that she was mostly focused on the pain of Major's infidelity, earlier telling prosecutors, I was only thinking about my heart. After the video played, Priya Chaudhry, one of Major's defense lawyers, said Jabbari took a glass of champagne and a cigarette to the dance floor. Jabbari disagreed with the description, but said she did see herself taking a drag of a cigarette at another point in the video. In other clips of the footage, Chaudhry claimed that Jabbari can be seen hitting her head, which was allegedly injured during the altercation with Majors on the DJ roof. I think that means booth? Or the roof of the DJ booth? Jabbari disagreed. I did not. At another moment, Chaudhry said Jabbari bumped into the wall after several drinks in the nightclub. I brushed past it, Jabbari testified. Chaudhry had released some of the nightclub footage to the press ahead of the trial, and during jury selection, several potential jurors said they had seen the footage and would not be able to deliberate fairly because of what they had seen, and they obviously weren't selected for trial. Now, interesting, we don't see a mention of any of the right hand usage. Now let's roll up to the next most recent update. Major's accuser to continue testimony tomorrow. I'm going to be sick. Jabbari will continue a 4th day of testimony Friday. Her cross-examination, which crosses over, extended about 7.5 hours, marked by well over 50 sustained objections in a line of questioning that the judge has told defense lacks specificity. At one point, hours into surveillance footage, Jabbari told the defense lawyer, I'm going to be sick. Jabbari will start redirect with prosecutors in the morning. Manhattan prosecutors have said that after Jabbari concludes testifying, they expect to call about a dozen more witnesses to Major's misdemeanor trial, which is anticipated to last weeks. Okay, so we're still going. Arriving to the courthouse in a white coat with blue florals, blah, 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 blah. Much of the day on cross-examination was spent reviewing video surveillance footage. Jabbari often seen crying as she saw the clips. Well, you said Chaudhry made her cry twice, and then often crying. And I don't know if that's the same thing. And Major's watching intently, sometimes hunched in the direction of the screen. In one instance that reduced Jabbari to tears, Chaudhry had queued up body-worn camera footage from a police officer who found Jabbari back at the apartment she then shared with Majors on the day after the alleged attack. The clip was played for Jabbari on a laptop with headphones. Jabbari cried while watching the footage, which jurors and the public could not see or hear. Covering her eyes with her hands and looking to the ceiling, I really don't want to watch this, she said. Then, standing and apologizing to the judge, she excused herself for a few minutes. Major's mother pursed her lips. Returning, Jabbari told the defense lawyer multiple times, I don't want to watch the video. The video was played again, once on the laptop just for her, which Jabbari watched, touching her eyes as tears streamed down her face, and then again loudly in court for the jury. Then the body-worn footage was introduced into evidence by the defense and played loudly for the courtroom. The video depicted Jabbari on the floor of the penthouse she had then shared with Majors, covered in a multicolored checkered blanket the day after the alleged attack. In the video, she could be heard saying that she had been sick in the sheets, which is disgusting. That's all a quote. Turned away from the video, Jabbari covered her face, facing the screen. Majors watched the footage, eyebrows raised. One female juror nodded along with the defense, mumbling and mouthing repeatedly, that's right, to Chaudhry's question about the body-worn camera footage. And then we have one, and by the way, there's still no mention of, all those questions that were being asked and probably why there's a decent amount of those sustained questions. Not the only reason, I'm not saying that. But I imagine there were probably some asked and answered objections from the prosecution if Chaudhry, anytime she wanted to ask, and you're using your right hand, right? And then Jabbari gave a dismissive answer or an unclear answer, like, Well, I don't really know. Well, but in the video, you see yourself using your right hand, right? Objection, asked and answered, and that might have been sustained. And my point of saying that is we have a specific mention by people here that 50 objections were made and sustained by the prosecution during Priya's cross-examination, but Priya was also firing off these repetitive questions, trying to elicit an actual answer, an actual response to, are you doing this in the video? Are you using your right hand to do that in the video? But you see yourself using your right hand in the video to do that, right? And some of those objections and what was sustained are likely from that. So I've got to say, I think the details, even though we had way less reporters in the courtroom today, and I know that there was some suspicious coverage from Variety. I mean, they led with a headline about Jabbari saying she felt like she got hit by a bus, but didn't talk about how Jabbari almost ran into a car in the middle of traffic, which we're going to hear about thanks to Jimmy being in the courtroom. But, we did get some accurate details, some details that, it didn't seem like Pilar or the People article were fully holding back on, and I do appreciate that. I think it's very weird that none of them mentioned that the questioning involved, like, repeatedly, what hand are you using in that video? Were you using your right hand to do that? Which hand did you use to grab the lime? Which hand did you use to grab the glass? Which hand did you use to grab the cigarette? We don't see either of these articles that I'm giving some praise to mention something that was repeated over and over. So it's not like you just missed that part, right? You're sitting in the courtroom, you hear them ask about the right hand over and over, but they're not repeating that the purpose was Priya was establishing that Grace Jabbari used her right hand the whole night despite it being injured. And yeah. And I got to speak with Jimmy during lunch while the court was, between the morning and the afternoon sessions. And I'm going to rely on the thread I already wrote in the interest of getting this video published in time tonight for you guys to watch before everything tomorrow. Sorry I'm relying on myself and doing a read through of it, but it's in the effort of getting it in this video, edited, and pushed out on time. And I'm going to start with a part that I left out of this thread that was, I kind of left it out because it was huge to me. It was just such a stupid detail because Grace Jabbari volunteered this information about how she knows she went home and remembers cleaning off her face. And we heard Pilar talk about this makeup part, the makeup regimen. Well, we have a little bit more insight into the line of question and the verbiage of the questions and answers thanks to Jimmy. So the damn makeup. When you got home, did you take off your makeup? Yes, I did. I took off my makeup. What did you use? Jimmy noted that she wasn't definitive in this answer, seemingly like she knew where Chaudhry was going with it. Did you notice injuries on your face when you looked in the mirror? Well, I didn't look in the mirror to take my makeup off. You didn't look in the mirror to make sure your makeup was off? Well, I don't wear much makeup. Did you wear lipstick? I don't recall. Did you look in the mirror? No, I don't wear much makeup. And I'm not sure when the line of questioning came that Priya was asking, well, did Chloe ever send you that selfie you guys took? But it was asked, and Jabbari said that she didn't remember if Chloe sent her that exact one. Here we go. This is where good take, bad take, reaction, reality. Here's some of the reactions already. So from Fallon, we have, she took off her makeup, then used a face wash to clarify with no mirror. Where does she wash her face? In the garage with a mop bucket? And I make a joke, penthouse life means you only need the bathroom when you need a warm floor. Because that's the other thing too. We know that you went into the bathroom. So unless their bathroom doesn't have mirrors, for any reason, you could have been in front of a mirror that night. And I don't know. I don't even think I'm that vain, but when there's a mirror, like a car reflection, sometimes you just look. And I find it hard to believe that she didn't look at a mirror at all in any of this time for any reason. Either because she said at one point, she's going to change her story on this, but she said on direct that she had noticed while she was awake and before she went into the closet or the bathroom, that she had noticed that hair was stuck in blood and she was peeling it away. But I guess she didn't go look in the mirror then. She never looked in the mirror for that. She didn't look in the mirror to clean her face, either that or she didn't actually clean her face. Why would you clean your face if you were planning to pack up and move? So you went home and did your normal nightly routine, but we're also having a prospect of packing to move. Let me stop harping on it, but it doesn't make sense to me. So, Andre says, Priya's been meticulous with these questions and I'm enjoying it. This is unreal. What are your thoughts so far? Well, if you're watching this, you'll hear them. Didn't she put in a request for $200 makeup? It was toiletries, skincare products. I'm not rich, so I don't know, but if my girl is spending that much money, she better look in the mirror to make sure she's not looking crazy. But then again, I don't know. Shrug. So, what do you think of those takes? I kind of agree. And then let's get into a rundown of day 7 based on what Jimmy is reporting from the courtroom. So, as a general characterization, the focus of the day was on the injuries and what happened in the car, the club, the penthouse, bathroom/closet, we'll call it. Before the jury arrives, the sides did discuss an issue of Jabbari's medical records. There's a label on the paperwork that notated domestic abuse, and both sides stipulated for it to be redacted, which means the jury and the court won't see that label. The first question of the day is Priya firing off if Jonathan had ever talked to Jabbari about getting her a working visa. Jabbari answered yes, and Majors was going to help Jabbari get this working visa when she first came over here to stay with him and move into that penthouse. That would enable her to start working, but it was never accomplished. And remember that as I'm going through this, I'm working off notes relayed to me by someone reporting as quick as they can while things are moving fast in the courtroom. So this is the best recollection type thing. Starting with the dinner, March 24th, which we did hear a little bit about yesterday, they go to a Japanese restaurant called Karasu. Not sure if I'm saying that right. To get to this restaurant, you have to walk through a place called Walter's. Priya asks Grace, "Did you have a drink?" Yes, it was a margarita. A video is shown of Majors getting up, apparently to go to the bathroom. Jabbari gets up and follows behind him. Now, I want you to think back to that People article that opened this video, the coverage of day 6, and this idea that Priya seemed to be conflating drinks that Grace was drinking with Jonathan Majors' drinks. And Danny had mentioned some discussion of this specific restaurant event. Well, today the court is seeing the video, and I'm not sure if the court got to see the video yesterday, but if they did, now we have 2 people acknowledging the same thing. Jabbari follows behind Majors. And to clarify why this is significant is the check was paid for. After Jonathan Majors is done with the bathroom, they're leaving, they're heading out. So it makes sense that Jabbari's following behind him, but what's interesting is she visibly cranes her head to kind of peek around the corner and make sure Jonathan seems to go into the bathroom. And then, very slick, she goes back to the table, picks up the drink that was sitting there, and drinks it all until it was finished. Now remember, Jonathan Majors is not coming back to this table. They paid, he's going to the bathroom before they leave. So Priya hones in on this. Do you see yourself picking up the margarita? Yes, that's what it looks like on the footage. And Jimmy notes that Jabbari kind of gives a lot of answers like this with this kind of like fluffy language. It's not just a yes or no. We heard that was the thing yesterday as soon as cross-examination started. And Jimmy notes that Priya used a structured naming mechanism for the different parts that take place in the car. So car 1, car 2, car 3 are all referring to events taking place in the Escalade, the hired car that they had for the whole day. But car 1 is the first incident where, the phone incident happens, the fight over the phone. Car 2 and car 3 are the parts where they enter the car for whatever reason at a separate time. And if you're wondering why Priya is going to walk through these same events again, it's to chase the inconsistencies and drive home certain points to the jurors. So leaving the restaurant, the couple gets into the car. This is the event that Priya is going to call car 1, and she begins to ask questions about what happened during that time, specifically. Priya asks Jabbari if she was wearing a seatbelt. Yeah, I think so. I can't really remember. Well, did Jonathan wear a seatbelt? I can't really remember, but maybe. Fair enough. And it seems like Chaudhry's setting the stage to ask questions about how they're going to move around in the car. Now, for context, in this Escalade, there's 3 rows of seats. There's the front, where the driver's sitting, and then there's a passenger seat. There's 2 separate seats, either bucket seats, captain seats, I think is another term for it, where they're not connected, they're individual seats, and then another row, a back row of individual seats, 2 more seats. So, 6 seats total, rows of 2. When the couple gets into the car at this point in time for car 1, they're both sitting in the middle row, each in their own seat. So then Priya gets into this line of questioning, trying to get at who actually asked the driver to stop the car. Did Jonathan say anything to the driver? Did he speak to the driver? Yes. Do you remember him asking anything? Yeah, I think he did ask the driver. Did you speak to the driver because you needed help? No, I don't recall. I don't remember. So it's interesting. Thanks, Sean White. So it seems like this line of questioning here is Jabbari trying to get at the idea that Jonathan had to ask the driver for help to stop the car so he could get out. But Jabbari was not in a position where she asked the driver for help. And that's important. Now, Priya's going to re-question Grace Jabbari about the fight over the phone. And the point of this is to hammer out the details of what exactly was happening after she saw the text and grabbed that phone. Because today Jabbari described it as Jonathan grabbing her with both hands and then mushing her in the face. And Priya followed that up. She said, so Jonathan grabbed you with both hands, then mushed you in the face. Which hand did you use? I don't remember, maybe both or one. And not for nothing, but a mush is like, it's not like, I don't know if I would just, maybe she just uses the term mush differently, but a mush is like, it's not like both hands. I don't know. Thanks, Michael. At this time, did Jonathan have his phone? Yes. So he wasn't trying to retrieve the phone at this point? No, he already had the phone in his hand. Which hand was he using? I wasn't looking at him. I couldn't see what hand. Do you know if he was using one hand, two hands? I don't remember. Which hand was his phone in? His left hand. So we know that detail. That was a very affirmative answer. She specified his left hand. And then Priya revisited and tried to drill down in on this and said, well, if his phone is in his left hand, how is he using two hands to grab you? She said that he may have used two hands to mush her face. And then the chase videos are played for the court again. Now, this is Jimmy's first time seeing them. Danny got to see them one time yesterday, but the jury is seeing this again. They get to watch this 5-city block chase all over again. And today we get to hear Jimmy's first take response to it. And impressively, but unsurprisingly, he describes it with the same reaction that Danny had to it. Grace exits the car to run after him. It's 3 lanes, 3 northbound, 3 southbound. And the car is stopped in the farthest left lane. That means there's traffic moving on both sides of the cars. When the hired car was stopped at a red light, that's when Jonathan was able to get out and then he started running. Jabbari is seen running out after him, and she almost runs into a white car that's driving while she's trying to run after him. While playing this clip, Priya asks her, you didn't notice that you're about to run into this car? I didn't notice. I was just trying to be with him. Walk with Jonathan. And Jimmy says from watching it, it's obvious that he's running and she's running after him. It is not walking, it is running. Specifically that, Jonathan's running, really running. And Chaudhry asks her, and remember, the articles that we've read, we are not seeing anyone pay attention to this from the mainstream media, but this is a huge credibility issue for me, and I can't believe it's not noted. Chaudhry asks Jabbari if she sees herself, Jabbari, chasing Majors. And Jimmy said that she repeated this question in different ways with the different camera footage, with the different angles, with the different clips of the entire chase. And this is why I'm especially bothered that we're not hearing from these outlets about this really long chase. There's no way that they were trying to jot down a note and just happened to miss this because it happened quickly. No, this is a couple minutes that this chase is lasting for. Probably more than 2 minutes. Probably close to 5, I think Danny said. So they're not noting that this chase is not just Jabbari reaching out of a car and then, oh, I give up. And then even worse, they're not noting how Jabbari's trying to couch her language when she responds to the questioning about it. So Chaudhry asked Jabbari if she saw herself chasing Majors, and she responds that she sees herself following him. Not running, not chasing, following. Jabbari just did not want to concede that she was running after Jonathan Majors. Jimmy also makes some general observations about others in the courtroom, noting that people seem to be smirking and even giving a subtle laugh, quiet laugh, about the answers that are being given during this ordeal. Now, throughout the questioning today, Priya at different points is asking Jabbari how she's feeling or how she felt during this. And that's really important because on direct, we saw her repeat kind of over and over every time the prosecution seemed to want her to say that she was feeling pain. They'd be like, did you feel any pain? And she'd be like, no, I just felt a lot of adrenaline. It just wouldn't really come out. But now that Priya's questioning her and she's putting these questions about how she was feeling, if she felt any pain, sprinkling it in throughout the questions today, we get these back and forth answers. Things like, I don't know. I just know he was trying to make me feel pain, talking about the actual incident in car 1 during the phone incident. She describes at another point that she felt pain throughout her entire body. Then she says, sometimes I felt adrenaline, sometimes I felt pain. And Priya dives into this. Did you feel adrenaline in the club? Yes. Did you feel pain in the club? Yes. Did it hurt to move your hand in the club? No. So, I don't have all 3 of those in this tweet, but it is in my notes. But it's you want to say that you're in pain at the club, but then as soon as you realize why that's damning to say because of your hand and what you're doing with your hand in the club, you have to now say, no, I don't feel pain in my hand, because if I tell you I felt pain in my hand specifically, then I know it's going to look bad for all these things you see me doing in the club. And we're not hearing about any of these inconsistencies because, as we pointed out, as we went through the People article and what was covered by Daily Beast, they mentioned that there was questions about the club. But they don't hammer home. They don't even mention that these questions involved, were you using your right hand to do that? Were you using your right hand to do that? But they're huge inconsistencies, and they relate directly to the injury claimed. And Jimmy also notes that she specifically said she wasn't focusing on the pain, she was focusing on the infidelity. And Danny noted that similar idea. Now this part is where the details start to move fast. So after the chase footage is done being played, we get to the sidewalk part where all the friends come into the picture. And not to overkill this video, but you have Chloe is this person currently hugging Jabbari, Shams is this guy, Max is the guy with the hat who is Chloe's boyfriend. The one that wanted to fight Jonathan Majors. And Jimmy says they played this video for the court, and it was on an old school TV with not the best sound, but it was still audible. Priya asks about what we've all seen, anyone that's watched that video that's available to the public, the one that Grace Jabbari herself says that she has seen because Priya Chaudhry leaked it, released it to the public. Priya asks her, what was the first thing you said to them? And we get a classic, oh, I don't recall. And that's where Jimmy emphasizes that even though it's an old TV, they play the clip and Jabbari is audibly saying, Jonathan Majors is my boyfriend. And that's where you hear Max go, no way. So if you haven't seen that clip, go watch it. It shouldn't be funny, but it kind of is. And remember, the prosecution did not want this audio in. Now we're going to get into car 2. So after that main sidewalk surveillance footage that has been out in the public for a while, where you see Jonathan Majors go off screen, and then the friends followed, well, Jabbari follows, and then the friends follow her. The court is now watching this video being played, while Priya now hammers in on the details of everything that happened during car 2. So with car 2, Majors enters on the left side and goes to the back row. Jabbari gets in the car after him. Thanks, Ricky. And not too long after, you can see the right side door open. Then you can start to see her pulling, and she's pulling at him by the coat, and then you suddenly see a white shirt pop up in the video on the screen. So Priya's stopping as this video goes and asking questions, and at this point, she stops and she asks, can you see his shirt now? Yes. So his button was definitively popped off during this moment, while she was pulling him back into the car, while he was trying to leave and get away. And this is after she repeated more than once that she couldn't recall seeing his shirt during earlier testimony. Now, that's included earlier in this video when we went over some things from day 6. She'd forgotten about it after she had seen this video on direct, and now she suddenly acknowledges that she does see what's very obvious to people sitting in the courtroom is on the screen. And then Blebet came in with the assist, so here you can see the buttons are popped off, and we have a ripped coat pocket here. And remember, Priya has always said, she's mentioned this detail of the witnesses, the 3 witnesses, observing this happening, where this coat ripping and the buttons happened right in front of witnesses. And people were calling her a liar. But detail for detail, everything that she has to stop and play these videos for, this video surveillance, and say, do you see that shirt? Are you pulling at him? Are you getting out of the car to chase him? You're going up to these people on the sidewalk and you're saying, Jonathan Majors is my boyfriend, right? Each of these little details that Jabbari is finally having to affirm on the stand are details that Priya has been saying and has completely laid out since April. She laid these details out from the beginning and was called a liar for it. And now we're seeing, after 3 days being on the stand, Jabbari's in a position where, because it's being shown on video to the entire court, she has to affirm that, yes, I see that happening on the video. And now we're going to get into car 3. But right before there's anyone entering into the car for the 3rd time, all the friends are standing on the sidewalk. And Jimmy notes that it's apparent that Chloe is holding Grace back. So Jonathan starts moving towards the car. Then Jonathan gets over to the car and he does some type of motion and point. And Jabbari goes over to the car. So they both enter on the left and then he exits out of the right side. And then Priya questions Jabbari. Did you see how he left? No. Did you throw anything on the ground? I don't recall. And that question is stricken, but it was apparent, it was visible in the video that Jabbari had thrown something on the ground, but Jimmy can't tell what it was. I don't think anyone could really look at it and tell what it was. And at this point, this is when the friends are deciding to go hang out. Jimmy does note that the friends take a separate taxi. He describes it as Jonathan making his own way. The hired driver leaves for the night, and the friends take like a yellow cab to go out. And then we get into Loosies and questions about the drinking, the pain, and what Jabbari is seen doing on camera. Now, there's going to be a lot of questions here. They aren't exactly all in order, and that's strategic because it can help bring out inconsistencies in recall and answers. This is clip after clip after clip of Jabbari doing something that she should be showing some type of pain, or she appears to be doing something that shows signs of drunkenness in these videos. And Priya is question by question hammering that out clip by clip. And we don't really see that presented in the news coverage. So did you use any stairs when you got to Loosie's? I don't recall. And don't forget, by the way, this is a good time to remember, did you feel pain throughout the night? Sometimes I felt adrenaline, sometimes I felt pain. Did you feel adrenaline in the club? Yes. Did you feel pain in the club? Yes. Did it hurt to move your hand in the club? No. Did you take any shots at the bar? Yeah, I think I took a shot of tequila. How many? 1? 2? I don't recall. Did you take any shots after the first one? I don't remember. And Jimmy, after he says, he's just like, but it's all on video. So just imagine these clips being played, Priya stopping before the next clip starts, asking her a question about what is coming up in the next clip that Priya knows is coming up. And these videos are publicly released. Jabbari said all the time in the world to review them and see them. But she still wants to give these vague, I don't recall, I don't remember. And then this was about 2:15. Jimmy had to get back in the courtroom, but this is where everyone's giving some shout outs to Jimmy. So we've got Pam. I think Pam said thanks twice, so we're going to go find that other one. Jesse says, thank you, Jimmy, for the details. I'm glad you were there. We've got King saying, tell Jimmy, and it's Rihanna. Mwah. We've got Nija saying, Jimmy boy, come on now. Thank you for this. Not only are you helping with spreading the truth and justice, but also helping with JM's reputation. Andre, awesome. Thank you, Jimmy. This is so important to get the story out, not just the major media take on things. Genesis says, thank you, Jimmy King with the crown. You're the absolute best. I'm happy you were in the courtroom today. We've got literal flower deliveries from Ashley. Francis says, thank you, Jimmy. You're our hero today. Blue says, salute to you, Jimmy. That's dope. Carmen says, thank you, Jimmy. We need to know the truth. Phil, lots of money, says, much respect, Jimmy. I don't know why that was flagged. It's annoying that X does that. But Emily says, thank you, Jimmy. Great reporting and great notes, providing both the questions and answers and the context it's being asked about. We've got a slap up from She Dreads Me. It says, shout out to Jimmy. We've got another Pam shout out. We've got 31 loves here. Pam says, tell it, Jimmy, thank you, with 3 hearts. Dr. Hines Ketchup Man says, hello and thanks for the hard work with the ketchup signal. Mr. Chuckletee says, thanks for the hard work. Keep it up. Jesse B, thanks for all the hard work, Jimmy. You took the time to take notes, so thank you for that too. Lily Rush says, thank you for doing what the mainstream press didn't, reporting a fair and unbiased perspective. Yeah, see, that's what I was saying earlier. No mentions of the chase and or inconsistent answers in the big media. So thanks for telling us, from Aaron Kraft. Nija says, please and thank you again. Revelation Stone says, thanks, Jimmy. Amazing job. And thanks to you both for picking up the baton. Hey, I'm here to help. Excellent work. We're getting some claps. Thanks a bunch, Jimmy, from Latest Infatuation. Rated R, J, and B says, thanks for the hard work. Bannerstein, if you catch this video, Jimmy is not on this app. I'm a little jealous. He said he only uses YouTube. So we're just going to pass along this shout out for you. Derek Boyce gives you a salute. Jimmy, you a real one. Emily, why is Emily getting blocked here? We got to fix that. Jimmy, you the man. And Queen Sade says, thanks, Jimmy. She's also in this hidden replies for whatever reason. Hate that. I don't know why they do that. If you have a shout out for Jimmy, make sure you let it be known. And remember, he is on YouTube. He's not on the other platforms. That's why we got to relay it in this video. But let's get into where he left off. So when he's leaving courtroom, he's on the way home. And remember, I'm taking these notes as I'm being told, trying to type it fast. So always keep in mind that I'm relaying something from notes that are coming from notes. This is us catching up to where we left off before he had to go back into the courtroom at 2:15. So Jimmy's like, so Jabbari was taking the shots on video and then saying she didn't recall. So then they would use the video as a reminder. They would stop and go every few seconds with every detail, breaking the whole video down. And Jimmy says they did that with all the videos, even the one outside, because, she allegedly already hurt her hand at that point. And, she's standing there, she's doing things on the phone that the friend let her use. She's brushing her hair. You see her doing the tying the hair thing where, you got to go like that to manipulate a hair tie. And the words Jimmy used to describe it was that Priya showed so many times how Jabbari was using that hand, that same hand. And we can't get a mention in the media that all these questions have to do with the hand. And so for clarity, going back to car 2, so that's the button popping, I clarified with Jimmy, I'm like, is it, she's being questioned and she's saying that she sees this, or is it also like really visible to you wherever you're sitting in the courtroom? And the reason I asked for this clarification is because, Jabbari pretended like she didn't see these shirts and these videos all the other times they were played. She just didn't want to say she saw the shirt. And if it's really apparent to someone that's sitting a few rows back in a courtroom while the video's being played on an old TV, it's kind of like, why pretend you don't see that? So Jimmy wasn't sitting up front row because that's obviously, the defense table and then the family sitting behind that. And then he mentioned that Cheyenne Roundtree was sitting in front of him. So he's a row behind that. And yeah, do with that information what you will about Cheyenne Roundtree being in the courtroom. Not sure how Rolling Stone reported on anything that happened today, but if it's an issue of relaying, we can take a guess at who the messenger was. And Jimmy brings car 3 back up, saying that Priya asked Grace who left the car first, and Jabbari still said, I don't remember. This is day 7. This is after all of the testimony yesterday, after those chase videos were played yesterday, after all the questioning yesterday, after all the direct testimony, after all this time she may have had if she's seen any of this before. She still said she doesn't know who left the car first. And then they show the video where Jonathan leaves first, and she clearly follows after him. And then she goes, yes, Jonathan left first, and I was right behind him. And Priya kept doing this. Always going to the video when Grace Jabbari would be like, I don't recall, and then being like, video, are you doing this in the video? Do you see it? So in this car 3 moment where Grace finally acknowledges that, yes, Jonathan Majors goes first and I follow closely behind him, that questioning continues right into the club. And I think Jimmy laughed at this point. Before starting the video clip, Priya asks, when you enter the club, what do you see? And Jabbari goes, things you see in the club. So Priya goes, did you see stairs? Well, I don't recall. And it was noted here that it seems like she was coached well. And while we're going through all these different questions, I might not get it in the exact right order, but we'll see a lot of important clips that are being shown in court to match these questions. Blabette has done a great job at compiling all these different pieces, and it is her pinned post. It's a whole thread of different available footage, images, and also maps to help you figure out where this night progressed from and to. So this is one of the first videos released from Loosies. You can see the friends all kind of entering, getting in there. They just came down the stairs or up the stairs. Yeah, I think they came down the stairs. She's using her right hand here. See her right arm go out. She's clasping her fingers here. She's got the credit card in her hand there before she puts it in her other hand. Moves the glass with her injured hand. Grabbing her phone, squeezing in her bag. It looks like she has to like force it in there because you know how purses be. We having all our stuff in there. Grabs it calmly, like with no hesitation. Hold on. She snatches that glass with the injured hand. Brushes her hair back with the injured hand. We see her at other parts of the night. She's gonna clasp this handrail and kind of wobble up the stairs when they're leaving. Then we have the dancing footage where she is over and over using her right hand to dance around, grab people's hands to dance with them, being twirled around by her finger. And Jimmy says that Priya is stop and go with these clips, asking her every single time, are you using your right hand here? Grab there by the hand. She's not doing anything to demonstrate, you know, not trying to bump your hand into something. There she is. I think it's the cigarette part. So it is a champagne glass. So she switched the champagne glass to the different hand. Well, let's do that again. She's reaching her hand up. He grabs it. She switches her glass quick to the other hand. So this is where she got the cigarette from. Does she already know this DJ, or did she just like randomly hope, you know, he's a DJ and he has that beanie on, maybe he smokes? She's clasping onto the bar here. Is there no sound in this one? She like loves this DJ. She's not even like, she's just guffawing at him. Grabbing Chloe's hand. That's all her right hand because she's right-handed. So this is the glass handoff, right? Oh no, this is the purse. She's like manipulating her fingers, like she's holding different ones, changing how she's holding her hands. So she's making direct contact with any individual finger that could be injured. Either way, no sign of caution about having an injury that I don't know how you couldn't feel. And then she clasps hands with him. Without hesitation. Oh, I'm stupid. He was probably already smoking it and grabbed it from him. That's a great way to show your independence. Just like put something that was just in someone else's mouth in your mouth. Oh, and then Blabette calls out when she seems to bonk her head on the DJ booth. I think it meant to say booth, not room. Yeah, oh my gosh. Oh my god, she stands so still after it happens and she laughs. Oh, she definitely hit her head and she knows it because that's what I do when I bump my head. There's like that one clear frame at the end where her teeth, right there, her teeth are like, huh? Her teeth are just like beaming. She just bumped her head. And then a close-up of her. She's currently holding the phone in her other hand, starts using her right hand, the injured hand, to type on it, walks away clasping the one with the injured hand. There's no apparent signs of any issue. Okay, so now that we've gone through all those clips, and remember Jimmy is watching this play on the screen. I don't know if he saw all the clips and the exact order that they were in, but the structure of the question's the same. Ask about something that happened, get a kind of answer, show the clip of it happening and asking, do you see that thing that you said you didn't know? Is that happening in this clip? Get an answer. And then drill down, what hand do you see being used there? And even if the jury isn't paying attention to these clips, they are going to hear over and over the right hand, the injured hand, the right hand, the injured hand. You're using that thing again. So yeah. And Jimmy notes that it was apparent that Jabbari was feeling good, that they can see from the courtroom TV, the videos, that Chloe and Jabbari are holding the hands. Priya's asking, is that your right hand? Yes. Was your hand in pain then? I didn't feel it. It was numb. But you felt pain in your whole body except your hand. So you felt pain everywhere except where it was injured. And this is like the thing that you're using the most in the club. He says that they show her signing the bill using her hand. And Priya asks everything. Did you take the tequila shot with your right hand? Yes. Did you reach and grab the lime with your right hand? Yes. Did you suck the lime with your right hand? Yes. Did you twirl with your right hand? Yes. And then there was a part that I didn't see, but she leans in and grabs Sham to take a selfie. Shams is the friend that's not Max, not the one with the hat, not the one dating Chloe. Do you guys feel like you know them now? You know this trio of friends? Jabbari grabs out to Shams with her right hand. Gonna take a selfie. This selfie apparently was presented a few days ago in court, and Jimmy said the defense and prosecution both admitted it. But she's using her right hand to take the selfie. But she apparently has a broken finger, and she doesn't even flinch or like maneuver differently, even when she's doing something that requires, tactile dexterity, like taking a selfie and using the right button on whatever phone. And I don't know, I'm not everybody, but to me personally, like those little details are kind of like, no, you would show some type of, you'd move a certain way because your hand would make you feel winced. It wouldn't feel numb the whole time just because you don't want to acknowledge that something should have been wrong with your hand at that point. At 3:02, they leave the club, and when she's leaving the club, and I don't think we've seen this footage anywhere, but she keeps hugging Chloe over and over, and Chloe hugs her back, and you know how girls do. But from what Jimmy can see, you can tell she's drunk. He says that even at one point when they were walking up the stairs, she bumps into the wall, which we did hear that covered. So Priya stops and goes, "Did you bump into the wall?" So it's just apparent on camera that Jabbari's drunk, either because she's walking up the stairs and she's wobbling, bumping into the wall, or because she keeps doing that drunk, hey girl type hug thing. And you use your hands every time you hug someone. You like go like this, you grab people. Yeah, and so Priya's asking her, is that the same hand that was injured? Did you feel any pain? And, these questions and answers are not of any sort of significance if you read these articles from today. That Jabbari has used her injured hand throughout the whole night without any sign of pain, even though she claims it was already injured a couple hours earlier. That's like a core theme of the case, that Jabbari has used her injured hand to do everything in the night that she said was already injured. And she said sometimes that it felt like pain, but she doesn't show any signs of that in any of this footage, stopping every couple of seconds to point out, you're using that hand, aren't you? And at this point, Jimmy makes some general observations. He had said earlier around 12:15 that the jury did look a little restless. We know that the day before they didn't want to go to lunch. They were like all riveted because I think that was around the first time they were seeing that chase video and seeing Jonathan Majors running and then his girlfriend at the time running after him. Like it's almost like a movie. Today they look a little restless. There was some yawning. They're less focused by now. They ended up going to lunch around 1. He notes this thing about the juror that Danny also noted, that maybe there's this, he didn't use this word, but my word, there might be a simp on the jury, or maybe a really good troll, but he's 30-something years old, he sits the closest to Jabbari, and every single break, he smiles at her, she smiles back. It's just like he's in front of everyone, doesn't seem like he cares that he's doing this in front of everyone, but she smiles back. Jimmy describes it as every break from ear to ear, this guy is smiling. But don't forget, we did see people note, I think it was people, that one woman on the jury was nodding, yes, that's right, when Priya was asking questions about the body cam footage. And then back to what's actually happening with questioning. This is actually a moment of empathy, and when Jimmy describes it, I see exactly why he points it out as kind of symbolic in a way, because the friends leave. The friends get in their cab and they leave, and Grace is still there waiting for hers, so now she's standing alone. And this is where everything ends, right? There was excitement throughout the night. Not always positive excitement, but excitement nonetheless. And the night ends with, in the club, she's cheesing. She's at the DJ booth. You see her teeth smiling, even though she just bumped her head. You can tell she's enjoying herself through, being at Lucy's nightclub. And then now, all of a sudden, she's standing on the sidewalk. The night is quieting down. The friends leave. The new friends leave. And then she's alone. And we'd heard her testify that she didn't want to be alone. She didn't want to go back to the house to be alone on direct. And just a really compassionate observation from Jimmy, where he says, that this could be exactly how she feels on the inside. The picture looked like it, where rather than deal with reality, she's constantly drinking to suppress reality. And then that drinking's probably painful too. And at this point, probably appropriately so, the court takes a break. When they come back, they are showing her enter the apartment building on video. And they go through the same line of questioning. So she opens the door. Are you using your hand to open the door? She reaches in her pocket or purse or whatever to grab her keys. Well, do you use your right hand to do that? Yes, I did. Did you use your right hand to do that? I did. Then they show her going into the elevator, and Jimmy starts a guessing game with me. guess what hand she used to push the numbers. And, I'm like, oh, the left. No, I'm kidding. I guess the right hand. I got it right. I've been studying. And so they show her going into this elevator, using her right hand to push all the numbers. And, maybe at that point, you're not using the broken finger to push the button. But if your hand's really swollen up, it should be, in theory, depending on how it was injured, it should be getting hard. If it's swollen, it should be kind of hard to naturally move your hands like this. But what do I know? I've only broken the very tip of my finger and still struggled for like 2 weeks to do basic things, but, on my non-dominant hand. But maybe I'm a baby because I'm not a pointed shoe dancer. And now we start to get into details about the questions that Priya asked about what happened in the apartment. So we already went over the makeup thing earlier. That actually happened this morning. But now we're going to talk about things like the closet, the police arrival, the timeline of texting the friend, and the blue pills. So let's start with the blue pills. Jimmy immediately says, they're bought from CVS and they had a picture of them, but it seems like they told her not to acknowledge that she knew what type of pills they were for whatever reason. She's saying, I don't know. I didn't take that picture. They had to approach the bench at this point. They ended up having to use a video where the pills are visible on the screen to lay the foundation. So police video, I'm assuming, like body cam, and then the police photos. Like they just could not get her to admit that it was those pills that were visible in this footage. And eventually it's seen, and it turns out that they are CVS pills. And it was like running a question marathon to get her to answer about these pills. And she just wouldn't say that she knew what they were. So she said that she bought them from CVS. But did you use any pills? Yes. Do you know the name? No. Do you know the milligrams? I don't remember. Did you go to the medicine cabinet to get the pills and maybe look at a mirror on the medicine cabinet? No, I'm just kidding. There's no mirror mentioned in this part of the questioning. Did you go to the medicine cabinet to get the pills? I don't recall. I don't remember. Did you tell the doctor you took the pills? And that was objected to, and it was sustained, probably because that's medical records. And this whole line of questioning, it turns out that they are CVS brand pills. And she knows she bought them from CVS. And we had her testify on direct, probably because she was trying to get ahead of this part, that she took 2 sleeping tablets like she ordinarily does. And she also had noted that she couldn't sleep because of the pain that she was feeling. So she admitted to taking these pills now and on direct. On direct, she boldly stated that she took 2 of them and that she ordinarily does this. And she voluntarily admits today on day 7 on cross. By the time I publish this, it might be day 8. I'm sorry. But she voluntarily admits that she took these pills that she bought at CVS, but she won't say, she doesn't know the milligrams. She's not saying the name. She won't say that it's the pills that are in the picture. Like, she just does not want to say that this bottle of pills that was found spilled, because that's why. This bottle of pills was found spilled when the police came. They noted that this bottle was spilled outside in the bedroom while she was passed out on the closet bathroom floor. For whatever reason, she was not going to give Priya the opportunity to point out that however she took pills that night, she left that bottle tipped over. And if you want my honest opinion now, and I didn't think about this until this week because of some things that Danny was saying, and also some other things that we learned yesterday and today, I think that spilled bottle was one of the pieces of the puzzle for Jonathan to see, not the police. And please don't think I'm hearing something and running with it, because these are pieces that are adding together. And this is what Priya's been doing across the cross-examination. And there's little signs of the prosecution trying to get ahead of this and avoid this. But back when Insider published on, this leaked surveillance footage, they also included this bit from the defense's argument saying, what Mr. Majors found in his apartment spun his concern into complete panic. Now, this is when he's arriving after he has this dooming text message, right? I guess this is where I'm going to lay it out. You had Danny point out yesterday, and it was repeated earlier in this video too, you can go back and watch it, where the police timeline, the police showing up. She acts like she doesn't know. She just wakes up in a daze, is confused why the police are there. We're going to hear that she says some questionable things when the police are starting to give her questions. But she had that cell phone in the closet with her and was texting her friend all night. And 13 minutes before the police actually are now questioning her when she's apparently unconscious, she sent a text message 13 minutes before that. There's a pill bottle spilled, knocked over in the room. And she'll say that she took sleeping pills. She volunteers that she took sleeping pills. But she does not want to say that she took the sleeping pills that were in the knocked over bottle. Like, why is it so bad that that bottle was knocked over? Jonathan comes back to this apartment because he saw what he thought was the final text. There's no note, just wanted to let you know what happened. He gets there, everything's locked. We heard her say now that it was locked because she was scared of him. But she went home and cleaned her face before locking herself in the closet for safety or whatever. It seemed like she only became scared of him the longer he wasn't there. You can rationalize that how you want. I would also urge you to consider if she was scared of him while she was sprinting after him for 5 city blocks. But what I don't know if we got to hear, I don't know if the courtroom got to hear, but what Mr. Majors found in his apartment spun his concern into complete panic. A deliberately placed sentimental photograph, a lit candle, intentionally stacked romantic items, a locked bedroom door, closed bedroom curtains, no answer to the phone calls, calling her name, loud knocks on the door. Within seconds of a building staffer forcing open the locked bedroom door and finding Jabbari unconscious on the floor of the walk-in closet, Mr. Majors called 911, and the first terrified words out of her mouth were, "attempted suicide." This is filings that Priya made with the court. Previous defense filings have noted police found spilled bottle of sleeping pills in the bedroom and vomit on the bed, and then Majors was arrested. Now, that seems like a really weird thing to try to suggest, and I want to be clear that whether she overdid it and took too many sleeping pills on accident, whether she genuinely wanted to take too many sleeping pills and did, or she wanted to make it look like this is what she was doing so Jonathan would find it. None of those 3 things prove Jonathan committed a crime in any way. But to me, one of those 3 things has to be what happened here. If I'm missing something, please tell me. But she was either upset that he really wasn't there, and she chose a way to deal with it. And that way of dealing with it, I can feel sad about, but I can't say that it warrants accusing somebody of harming you. And Jimmy talked a bit more about how, she was obviously texting her friend while she was in the house through WhatsApp. But they get to this part with the police interaction. Jimmy starts talking about this police interaction video. And remember, this is where she says she doesn't want to see this. She wants to run out of the room. Why is this the moment that she does not want to face? So she runs out of the room. That's where it said, the news said it. Jimmy said it. You can hear her from all the way through the corridor into the courtroom. You can hear her crying. He says that the jurors look concerned. That's when she comes back in and laughs and says, "Oh, okay, I'm okay now, Your Honor. I can do it." Gives what's possibly a nervous giggle. Now consider all these details and how we got here, and how, if this is like the culmination of it all, how these questions and what's being said as Grace and Priya go through the body cam footage. Put that into context and think about it. So Priya asks, "What's the first thing the cop said?" And Jabbari responds, "What is your name?" But there's no answer given by Jabbari to that question on this video. She doesn't answer them what her name is. Instead, she says, "I am confused right now." They ask her, "Did you fall asleep here in the closet?" And she responds to the cops, "No, I fell asleep in the bed." Then says, "My ear hurts so bad," and asks the police what's happening. And she tells Officer Swain, "I don't know if I had fallen." But Priya had a hard time getting Jabbari to admit this. They had to keep going back to the video so that way she would admit that that's what she's saying. And to follow up on that, after finally getting Grace Jabbari to admit that she told Officer Swain, "I don't know how I'd fallen," Priya fast forwards to Bellevue Hospital and asks, "Did you communicate anything with your friend while at Bellevue?" "Yes." "Did you say, 'I think I may have fainted'? Is that what you said?" And Jimmy notes that she said yes and kind of shrugged her shoulders annoyed while she said yes. And I was like, well, she seems to change her tone when she has to answer certain things like this. And Jimmy's like, she definitely does. So that seems to be what that kind of shrugging yes, I don't know how it exactly was, but that's what that body language was. And then there's video of Jabbari in the hospital. So Jabbari's looking at this video. She's crying and whimpering. In the courtroom, she's crying and whimpering. So she's crying in the courtroom looking at this video of herself in the hospital. And I was like, it seems like if she's crying while looking at this footage, if this is making her teary-eyed in the hospital, her sadness is the remorse, the grief for the loss. Maybe the loss of the lifestyle, maybe the loss of Jonathan Majors, maybe just the idea of loss in general. And Jimmy built on that. And, he felt that sense of like, she could be looking at this feeling like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed, and feeling like she's reliving that experience again, and just maybe felt embarrassed to see herself in that space again. So that could be why she's crying and weeping on the stand being shown this video. So after this segue to Bellevue, which was to establish, in line with her telling Officer Swain, I don't remember if I had fallen, that she also, at the hospital, was still telling her friend that she thinks she may have fainted. And the reason that's important is because if she's telling Officer Swain she had fallen, this is in the closet, this is before Jonathan Majors is arrested, and then if she's at Bellevue, still saying like, I think I may have fainted, as in, I don't know that Jonathan gave me these injuries, I can't say that, I don't know still. But Jonathan was already arrested then, at that point, by the time she's at the hospital. Then it makes it more important what you said the rest of the time during your interview with the police. So Priya Chaudhry goes back to the interview with the police, and Jabbari says to them, "Why does everything hurt?" This is while she's still laying on the ground. "I'm so confused. What happened?" And then she says to the police, "Why are you here? What did he do?" Now, in the moment, she knew that Jonathan Majors was in the other room. She knew it. And Priya Chaudhry points that out and says, "So you were the first one that brought up that Jonathan did something." Yes. And we heard her testify previously that she suddenly felt like telling the cops was her way to get out of this. And now we have Priya laying it out that there was no conversation from the cops. She was the first one to bring up his name. So until she said, "What did he do?" they thought this could have been an attempted suicide, or at the very least, she was unconscious because pills, maybe alcohol. But the idea of anything domestic came up because she initiated it and said, "What did he do?" After saying, "Why does everything hurt? Why are you here? What happened? What did he do?" And then after asking that, Priya wants to replay the video. And Jabbari says, "I don't want to watch that video again, please." But then Priya narrates this next question. Right after she says she does not want to watch this video, "Do I have to? Please, I don't want to watch it." Do you ask, "Did he hurt me?" And Jabbari says, "Yes," as in, that's what she says in the video. Priya asks, "What happened to my ear? Is that what you say?" "Yes." "I was just trying to sleep. Is that what you tell the cops?" "Yes." Then Chaudhry asks Jabbari, "Did you tell them you don't know how you got your finger hurt?" "I don't recall," Jabbari asks. So Priya plays the video, and then Jabbari confirms that she had told them that she didn't know how she got her finger hurt. At this point, Jimmy made an observation that Jabbari seems to occasionally motion and mouth words. He may have seen her mouth words to her family like twice from while she's on the stand and they're sitting in the audience. And that it wasn't often, but it was enough that he noticed. And then the medics show up. So there's video of the medics show up. Jimmy says it's 40 seconds with video and that they did show the portion. The court sees this video. And it's where the medical staff is interviewing her. And Jabbari says in this clip, "I was trying to sleep and I remember feeling sick. And then I see it on the sheets." So Chaudhry's like, "See what on the sheets?" And Jabbari says, "Vomit." And then Chaudhry asks, "Did you say you did not know what movement caused your injury?" Jabbari confirms, "Yes." And also in the video, Jabbari states, "I don't know what happened to my finger." And it was a short video, like 40 seconds. Jimmy makes an observation that every time Grace can smile at the jury, she seems to take that opportunity. Quick eye contact, smile, keep it moving. And then there was the bit that seemed to happen quickly. It was something involving a domestic incident report that she took at the hospital that a police officer filled out at the hospital. And there was an inconsistency in this report with something else she wrote. Jabbari said she didn't know what it was, but then Priya was like, "Is this your signature?" And she had to confirm it was. It was some inconsistency with an EIR versus something she said the day before in court. So yesterday, something about the strangulation was brought up, so I'm wondering if these are the dots connecting. But it was very quick, so maybe we can, piece that together if Danny sees this. Maybe Danny can, tie that loose end together for us. We also have, on March 25th, the DA already had interviewed Grace Jabbari. Priya asks, "Did you tell the DA you did not remember how you got injured?" And Grace did not want to answer that question, and after Priya tried to ask it a couple times, the judge told her to continue on. That was probably an ask and answered objection. Then Priya asks, "Did you tell the prosecution I freaked out like a blip?" And that's like a lapse in time and memory. And, I think she's had a lot of those. And right now she says, "I don't recall." And just more questions like this about what the prosecution asked her on March 25th and how she responded. But it was pretty much no recall. I don't recall. In this line of questioning, Priya circles back to car 1 where, the actual finger and the phone incident happened. And Priya brings up that Grace Jabbari signed a document with the prosecution where she states that he used his hands, plural, to strike her, and made that statement to the prosecution, to the DA. So Priya asks, didn't you testify earlier you looked away and didn't see which hand to know? Because remember, she specified, well, do you know if it was one or two? I don't know. I wasn't looking. But she signed a statement with the DA saying he used his hands to strike her. There's also some other interesting questions. So Priya asks lifestyle questions. Did Majors fly you around to different countries, vacations? Yes. Did you go on first class? Yes. Did he fly you to Hawaii for your birthday? Yes. Did he fly 7 of your friends to go with you? Yes. So that goes back to the claims of being isolated and separated from friends. When you bought the house in London, did you make a comment about, this is the best house I've ever been in. I've never been in something so big. Then there's even mention of how he paid for her and a friend to go to the Mariah Carey concert. That's a weird thing to hear after the Glastonbury music festival that she was at, that he was upset about, was supposed to be controlling behavior. But then he's helping her go to concerts with her friend where she was apparently drinking there. And there was a small mention made of constant drinking. So that's why things like yesterday's mention of Sag Harbor were really important. And Jimmy noted something about hiding and took a large drink, but I'm not quite sure about the exact context of that. But it happened at some point. Priya also asks, did you start calling yourself Mrs. Majors? And at first, the way Grace Jabbari answers is, well, Jonathan would send me a text calling me that, and I would just respond to it. I would just respond to him calling me that. Priya drills down and says, so you never called yourself Mrs. Majors to someone else? And she just goes, maybe, I don't remember. And Jimmy notes that it just seemed like all she kept talking about was infidelity. Anytime pain came up, Jimmy notes, and I agree, if he didn't say it, I would say it, that's not why you're here. And that even though it sucks to be cheated on and not have a person be honest enough to tell you, like, that really sucks, that really hurts, but it's not a justification to do something that isn't true, to say something that isn't true, that could really have an egregious impact on someone's life. And at this point, it seems to be having an egregious impact on her that I don't think she expected when it first happened. And that kind of goes along with the idea that, maybe everything that was there in the bedroom, the knocked over pill bottles, being locked in, passed out, but with your phone, and then trying not to acknowledge that you had your phone with you. Like, why else not want to mention that? Then the staging of the lit candle and the photograph, the sentimental photograph neatly placed for Jonathan to see when he walked in, leaving him with this final message that alludes to you killing yourself. And to the point where he uttered the words attempted suicide when he made the 911 call. And unfortunately, it was the police standing over you and not Jonathan standing over you. And maybe you thought it would be Jonathan. If her idea here was to avoid the pain of loss, it could make sense why someone would, at the height of everything going on, to do something extreme that might make the partner that they want to come back and no longer be broken up with, come say it's everything, like, everything's okay, don't do this. I don't think she wanted the police to be the one to do that. It's all just an idea. Priya also noted that after the whole situation in New York, Jabbari began to see a therapist in London bi-weekly. And I did ask about Sag Harbor, and Priya did try to bring it up again today, but all Jabbari kept saying was, I don't recall. And then, because of objections, Priya just had to move on instead of asking the same question over and over. I got to have great conversations with Jimmy. It was really great to meet him, and honestly just such a great experience to just hear that somebody was willing to go down to the court. He was able to speak with some of the family members, I think during lunch and then before he left. So a brother or brother-in-law and an uncle. And then after he'd had some conversation, like letting him know that he's here to support them. Later on, Megan Good had turned around and given Jimmy a wave. So if you want to be like Megan Good, give Jimmy a shout out in the comments. But how cool is that? And it really shows that even if you think like somebody doesn't know who you are, the idea that somebody would support and understand and see what you're going through and feel like it is important is huge. Like, his brother appreciated it, the uncle appreciated it, enough so that they must have said something to the point where we get Megan Good, who's not just Megan Good, she's the girlfriend of the man at the center of the case. So she's going through it all the same, that she turns around and shows appreciation. And I'm sure there's people sitting in that courtroom and even us here, we could all give some consideration to how we might deal with things. You know, Grace Jabbari could be an example of what happens when someone continues to drink rather than addressing things of the past, to the point where, you know, we see her burst out instantly at the mention of something very tragic, but something that happened very long ago, nevertheless. That grief is still completely fresh, as if it's never started to heal. And, you know, Jimmy made an observation, but I could have called it, but he noted that her expressions when she's crying, it's palpable, and that's humanizing to her. And he knows that she may have capitalized on that. But nevertheless, there's probably something very valid that she is feeling, but it's not being addressed. It's being transferred or projected to a cause that isn't the right way to project it. And that's causing a huge injustice against Jonathan Majors, and that's not an okay thing to do. But at the same time, she probably isn't lying when she says that she feels sad. And that doesn't mean all the reasons and rationales that she states for why she feels sad or how she deals with that sadness are true and honest. But I definitely think she feels sad, and I think there's a ton of doubt that he committed a crime of any sort on that night. And I don't know, I really think she could have staged that apartment for him rather than saying she went back to the apartment ready to pack but just took a nap really quick and then happened to pass out because she was so tired. You know, I think it's possible she planned to be there and wanted him to think she would be gone, so he would feel compelled to rush home and get home sooner. And I've got a lot of thoughts on subjects like this in general, but it's getting late for me and I've been lacking sleep and I want to get this out to you guys. So I'm going to shut up and let you guys speak from here to share your thoughts on anything and everything. Remember, oh wait, one more thing. Okay, so this is good. So Jimmy says Gaffey's funny and has had the courtroom laughing. And I was like, oh, so is Grace coming back for cross tomorrow? Or, wondering what the schedule looks like for tomorrow. And she's going to be coming back on the stand, but it's going to be redirect. So the prosecution's going to ask her about things that probably need to be corrected or tightened up because of cross-examination. But when I'd asked this, Jimmy was like, oh, Gaffey's funny. The whole courtroom was laughing at some moments. And he says to Priya, please, can we be done with her tomorrow? And then, talking about Jabbari. But then he looks over to her and says, I promise you we're going to be done with you tomorrow. So I thought that was kind of a gem. I think we're all thinking it. But anyway, big thanks to Jimmy for going down there. Like, honestly, when I opened my emails this morning and I was like, this is someone there? I was shocked to read it. I felt really touched reading it that someone just did that for someone else. And I'm grateful for us and myself, interested in just knowing what's going on, that you went and did that. I'm sure everyone else watching this is too. So thank you again. Everybody else, comments are open to your thoughts. You guys have a good night. It'll probably be morning when I publish this, so have a good whatever you're doing now. And talk to you guys soon.